Star Wars is more than just a franchise, it's a legacy. One that spans generations, mediums, and galaxies far, far away. But let's be honest, not every part of that galaxy hits the same. So today, I'm ranking every Star Wars project, every movie, and every show, completely honestly. No nostalgia bias, no Disney loyalty, just the good, the bad, and everything in between. And whether you're a die-hard prequels fan, or someone who swears by Andor, you'll want to stick around, because this list will surprise you. Or maybe it won't, so let's get into it. D tier. These are the projects I view as the worst across the board in Star Wars. And coming in 22nd place, we have The Acolyte. When this was announced on May 4th in 2020, it was one of my most anticipated Star Wars projects. Described as Sith-focused, it would be the first time we see a story told in live action from their perspective. But what we got? It was far from what we'd all hoped for. It was a messy show, but whether you enjoyed it or not, I think it's best for everyone that it's cancelled now, and hopefully we'll never have to experience that level of dispute in the fanbase ever again. In 21st and 20th place, it's Episode 8, The Last Jedi, and Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Never have I ever been so excited for what may have happened in a trilogy than in the years following The Force Awakens. The theory videos, discussions with friends, it felt like the whole world was talking about Star Wars again. But what came after will always be a huge shame for me. To see Luke Skywalker turn into a grumpy old man, throwing his lightsaber away, trying to kill Han and Leia's son in his sleep, not even having the balls to come and face Kylo himself, and force projecting himself instead. And then, if ruining one legacy character wasn't enough, somehow Palpatine returned. And after all this time, Rey was related to him because he had a child who somehow was a nobody, despite being the offspring of one of the most powerful Sith Lords that's ever lived. There was good moments in these two films, but it's not enough, and for that reason, it ends the D tier. C tier. We'll call these not bad. 19th and 18th. Tales of the Empire and Tales of the Underworld. I enjoyed both of these shows, but there's not much substance to them. Cool stories, but not enough to compete any higher. 17th. The Book of Boba Fett. When Boba returned in The Mandalorian, the hype was real. It was exactly what you'd expected him to be like as a kid, based off of his limited screen time in the original trilogy. But watching him have someone else do all his dirty work, while he tries to almost stay out of trouble, it just all felt a bit wrong. Those Mandalorian episodes that randomly appeared though, they were great. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one, as the show was getting a bit dry. 16th, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, I wanted to love this. I mean, who doesn't love Ewan and Hayden returning to do a show together? But in truth, it was just alright. I explained my thoughts on the show in further detail in a recent video, so if you haven't seen it already, be sure to check that out if you're interested. Now, into the B tier. These are the projects I'd class as good. Kicking us off in 15th, Tales of the Jedi. It's the best of the three Tales series for sure. Seeing Jedi Dooku was something I'd always wanted to understand more of, and it explores some really interesting stories. It is short though, and for that reason it can't really go any higher. In 14th place, Solo. Some people may have had this lower, but I actually enjoyed Solo, and feel it's harsh to have it all the way down at 14th for me. It's not something I've rewatched more than probably once, but as a backstory goes, it more than does the job. Han and Chewie meeting was great, we explored Corellia finally, and met new characters, and we even got a cool cameo. 13th, Ahsoka. I really enjoyed this series. Ahsoka is one of my favourite Star Wars characters, and I think this series may even have the potential to rise into the top 10 if Series 2 is as good as I expect it to be. Baylan and Shin were amazing in Season 1, rest in peace Ray Stevenson who did an incredible job, and I hope to see them continue their journey in a world with Ezra showing us what he can do in live action, in a battle against one of the most compelling villains in Thrawn. 12th, Andor. Now before anyone gets mad and says it should be higher, maybe you are right, Season 2 was incredible. But for me, Star Wars is about the Force, Jedi, Sith, and the elements that make you feel like you're in the galaxy far, far away. I overall loved Season 2 regardless of this, so it would have been much higher, but Season 1 definitely is anchoring it down to 12th. 11th, The Mandalorian. Season 1 and 2 are a huge driver of Star Wars regaining its popularity over the last years. It was the first real Disney Plus release, and was a way for fans to get excited on a weekly basis, rather than waiting years for movies, and that felt so good. The discovery of Grogu, the inner workings of bounty hunters, it felt grounded, but Jon Favreau did such a good job of keeping the myth of Star Wars within the show anyway. Season 3 was a painful watch at times, but with 2 seasons so strong, it just stays top of B tier for me. A tier. Great. Into the top 10 now. If you're enjoying the video, drop a like. It helps the channel out so I can continue to make Star Wars videos just like this. At 10th place, Star Wars Rebels. Where to start? There's just so much to talk about. It really needs its own full video. The relationship between Kanan and Ezra, Maul's influence, Vader's dominance, Ahsoka's importance, Kallus, the Ghost Crew, Thrawn. It's just a really solid series, and if you haven't watched it, don't be put off by the unique animation style. It's well worth your time. 9th, Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I really enjoyed this film, and it's a shame how 8 and 9 following it turned out. I thought Rey's story was compelling, and loved the mystery behind who she is. Kylo Ren's entrance was almost terrifying, and the potential for Finn's character, from Stormtrooper to maybe even a Jedi, was like nothing we'd seen before. And not to mention the emotion behind the events with Leia, Chewie, and even Han with his eventual death. 8th place, The Clone Wars. Now this is another that could use an entire video. 7 seasons of greatness. The way the clones were humanized and given different personalities, despite being, well, clones, made for such an intriguing storyline, and not to mention the stories Lucasfilm were able to tell with our favourite Jedi characters, especially of course Anakin and Obi-Wan, and the introduction of Ahsoka Tano. 7th place, Attack of the Clones. I made a video recently talking about how underrated this movie is, and that's why it's so high up on this list. The prequels as a whole perfectly capture the scale of the Star Wars galaxy, the burden of war, and the politics within both good and evil that come with such power like the Jedi and Sith hold. And the best part of this movie? Yoda igniting his saber for the very first time, and being a match for Count Dooku when Anakin and Obi-Wan couldn't, showing us why he's the famous Grand Master. 6th place, The Phantom Menace. This movie is a great introduction into the Star Wars universe. It's fun, features one of the coolest villains of all time, new Jedi with different perspectives in Qui-Gon and Mace Windu, and has what's now potentially the most iconic duel in Star Wars, in the Duel of the Fates. At the time of release, people slated Jar Jar, but in truth, he adds a comedic element in what is otherwise a serious political story, and makes for great viewing in all age categories as a result. It's just which elements you choose to focus on that matter. Now, S tier, the top 5, and for me, the best of Star Wars. 5th, Rogue One. It feels strange to put something which, for the most part, was so unrelated to the main characters we know and loved from the 7 movies before this, at 5th spot. But it truly has earned this place, and honestly, not only gets better with every rewatch, but feels even stronger after Andor Season 2 links up to it so perfectly, and adds a new perspective on the characters. The Vader hallway scene is probably my favourite Star Wars scene of all time, and perfectly captures how terrifying he is to face, in particular as a normal trooper. Jyn Erso is often not mentioned when talking about Rogue One, and now because of the Andor series and the highlights of Vader, even less so. But her character was great, linking into her relationship with her father, which eventually helps them discover the flaw in the Death Star, which we know Luke takes advantage of in A New Hope. And it was cool to see the time jump from her as a small child, being discovered by Saw Gerrera, to the present day, where she's as independent and as strong as him. 4th place, and it's episode 4, A New Hope. This honestly could be first on another day, and there's something so iconic about almost every scene in this film. The twin sons, Vader, his fight with Obi-Wan, the trench run, the trash compactor, Han and Greedo, the list goes on and on. It's one of the most important movie releases of all time, and it's still incredible how well it holds up today, the impact it's had, and how many of its characters are still going strong, whether it's Chewie, R2, Obi-Wan, or even 3PO. Now, the next three are interchangeable from here, depending on so many factors, but after some thought, here's what I've settled with. In third place, it's The Empire Strikes Back. Snowy planets, swamp planets, cloud cities, it really does have it all, and the world building makes it so special. It's the majority of people's favourite, and I think most would agree it may be the best from a straight up movie perspective. Where it slightly falls short for me, as obvious as this may sound, is that it's the middle of the trilogy, and it feels like it. It's probably harsh, but it's just about what separates it from my top two. The story remains open, and it doesn't have a definitive ending, but honestly, that's fine, because that's what it's supposed to be. And by the way, it feels like the middle of the story. It's so action-packed, the stakes feel high, and there's situations where you see no way out for characters. And despite me putting it down for some of those reasons, it's also what makes it so incredible. Second place, in the silver medal spot, we have Revenge of the Sith, the most fast-paced Star Wars story we've ever seen on the big screen. It doesn't give us a chance to breathe, and that's why it works so well. You feel Anakin be lured to the dark side during the climax of the war, and when Palpatine finally reveals himself to the Jedi, it feels like a moment years in the making. Padme and Obi-Wan's heartbreak, the defeat of Dooku, the Battle of the Heroes, Order 66, there's so many tense moments that capture the feel of the prequel era so effectively. Seeing the change from Anakin and Obi-Wan almost messing around in starfighters together, cracking jokes at the start, to 2.5 hours later battling it out on Mustafar with such hatred and sadness, highlights just how quickly the narrative changes for the Jedi. It was amazing to see this back in theatres recently, and the reception it got once again from the fans and the box office numbers it put up shows how powerful Star Wars stories can bring fans together. Remember to drop a like if you've enjoyed this video. And now, let's get into the number one spot. You guessed it right, it's of course Skeleton Crew. Jude Law's performance was nothing short of incredible, and okay, I'm only joking, I've not seen Skeleton Crew yet, so didn't want to include it in this list. At number one spot, it's my favourite Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi. For me, this is the perfect end to the Skywalker saga, and it's probably what makes the sequels even harder to digest. The rescue of Han on Tatooine is so engaging, with Luke fighting the Rancor, and then teaming up with R2 who shoots out his saber when it looks like all hope is lost by the Sarlacc pit. Everything that follows in the middle is great too, but what makes the movie for me is the ending. The victory celebration following the Battle of Endor feels like a party in a mythical galaxy, where everyone unites to celebrate the victory over the evil Emperor. However, there's a slightly different feeling for Luke, and you can feel it too. He's happy in a different way, not because he defeated the enemy, but because Anakin Skywalker returned, and in the end proved that there was good left in Vader all along, just as Luke had suggested, then ending with the Force ghosts of Anakin, Obi-Wan and Yoda, and the smile he gives them with John Williams' iconic music in the background before end titles play. That's why for me it's the best, because it concludes the story in such a perfect way. And that's my honest ranking of every Star Wars project so far. Over the last 50 years of Star Wars there has been some ups and downs, but that's the beauty of it. It's constantly evolving. We all connect with different eras, characters and stories. So now it's your turn. Drop your ranking in the comments, tell me what I got completely wrong, and which project you think deserves way more love. And if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe so you never miss another Star Wars discussion.